For decades, the United States government officially denied that this place even existed. No signs pointed to it, no maps named it, no records mentioned it, yet everyone knew about it. A place hidden in the Nevada desert, a place surrounded by fences, guards, and silence, a place that became a symbol of secrecy itself. This is not a story about aliens, this is a story about fear, fear of war, fear of being watched, fear of falling behind, and how that fear created the most famous secret base in the world. This is the story of Area 51. In 1945, the world changed forever. The atomic bomb ended one war and began another. Not a war of armies and front lines, but a war of information, technology, and fear. The Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union became enemies without officially fighting. Both sides raced to build better weapons, faster planes, smarter spies, stronger technology. And the most important battlefield was not land, it was the sky. By the early 1950s, the United States faced a serious problem. It could not see what the Soviet Union was doing. No satellites yet existed, no drones, no digital surveillance. Intelligence depended on airplanes flying over enemy territory, but Soviet air defenses were improving fast. American planes were being shot down, and every lost pilot was not just a military loss, it was a political disaster. The US needed a plane that could fly higher than anything else, higher than Soviet radar, higher than Soviet missiles, higher than Soviet expectations. The solution was a new aircraft, a plane that could fly higher than 70,000 feet, higher than commercial planes, higher than most weather systems. It was called the U-2. It looked strange. Long wings, thin body, almost fragile. But it could see everything. Missile bases, nuclear facilities, military movements, and it could do so without being detected, at least at first. There was a problem. Testing this plane required huge open space, no civilians, no nearby cities, and complete secrecy. You could not test a secret plane near Los Angeles. You could not test it near New York. You could not test it near any population at all. You needed isolation. And you needed control. In the Nevada desert, there was an empty dry lake bed called Groom Lake. It was flat. It was remote. It was empty. It was perfect. Surrounded by mountains, miles from the nearest town. Invisible from most roads. The government quietly took control of the area. No announcement, no press release, no explanation. They built a runway, then hangars, then fences, then guards. But they did not name it. Not officially. The name came from a simple reason. The U.S. Atomic Energy Commission divided land into numbered areas. This was simply one of them. Area 51. It was not meant to be famous. It was not meant to be known. It was not meant to exist. Everything about the base was classified. Workers were flown in secretly. They were not allowed to tell their families where they worked. Some thought they worked at weather stations. Others thought they worked in mining. The truth was hidden even from those involved. Secrecy was not just protection. It was strategy. Because secrecy created uncertainty, and uncertainty created fear. In the mid-1950s, people in Nevada and California began seeing strange things in the sky. Lights moving too fast, objects flying too high, shapes that did not look like normal airplanes. They reported them. The government denied everything. No such planes existed, officials said. People saw something. The government said nothing. And in that silence, something else was born. When people see something they cannot explain, and no one explains it, they create their own answers. Some thought it was foreign technology. Some thought it was experimental weapons. Some thought it was something not from this world. The myth of Area 51 began not because people were irrational, but because the government refused to speak. Silence created imagination, and imagination created legend. In 1960, a U-2 spy plane was shot down over the Soviet Union. The pilot, Francis Gary Powers, was captured alive. The United States claimed it was a weather plane. The Soviets presented the pilot alive with the plane wreckage. The lie collapsed. And for the first time, the world learned that secret planes did exist. But they still did not know where they came from. Even after this incident, the base remained hidden, because secrecy itself had become useful. Not only to protect technology, but to hide the truth inside a cloud of myths. If people believe in aliens, they stop asking about spy planes. If people laugh at conspiracy theories, they stop asking about classified projects. The myth became a shield. By the 1970s and 80s, Area 51 had become famous. Not for what it was, but for what people imagined it to be. Movies, television shows, tabloids. Aliens replaced aircraft. Spaceships replaced surveillance. And the real story disappeared behind the fiction, which was exactly what secrecy needed. Area 51 was not built to hide aliens. It was built to hide fear. Fear of being blind. Fear of being weaker. Fear of being unprepared. And that fear shaped the modern world. After the U-2 incident, secrecy did not decrease. It intensified. The lesson the government learned was not that secrecy failed, but that secrecy needed better protection. The base at Groom Lake became more important, not less. It became the place where the most advanced aircraft in the world would be tested. Far from cities, far from cameras, far from questions. The next generation of aircraft was faster, darker, and more invisible. Planes like the A-12 and later the SR-71 Blackbird. Aircraft designed not just to fly high, but to fly so fast that even if detected, they could not be intercepted. Speeds above Mach 3, altitudes near the edge of space. From the ground, these planes did not look real. They left strange contrails. They glowed at sunset. They appeared and disappeared like ghosts. People saw them. They pointed. They asked questions. And again, the government denied everything. No such aircraft existed. No such flights were happening. The skies were normal, but people were not blind. They were watching. In the 1970s, the technology changed again. Speed was no longer enough. The new threat was radar. If you could not be seen, you could not be stopped. This led to the development of stealth technology. Aircraft designed not just to outrun detection, but to avoid it entirely. The result was the F-117 Nighthawk, a plane that looked nothing like a plane. Sharp angles, flat surfaces, a shape dictated not by aerodynamics, but by mathematics, by radar equations. It looked like something from science fiction. And it was tested in total secrecy. Where do you test a plane that no one is supposed to know exists? You test it in the one place, already wrapped in silence. Groom Lake, Area 51. Flights took place at night. Workers arrived before dawn. Aircraft were moved only under cover of darkness. Even the pilots were isolated. They did not speak about what they flew. They did not speak about where they flew it. Silence was part of the job. As the base grew, so did its infrastructure. Longer runways, more hangars, more security, more restricted airspace. The desert around the base became one of the most controlled places on Earth. Cameras, motion sensors, patrols, warning signs, all designed not to protect people from danger, but to protect danger from people. Area 51 became a black hole for information. Data went in, nothing came out. And that absence of information created something powerful: suspicion. When people are denied information, they do not stop thinking. They think harder. They imagine. They speculate. They connect unrelated dots. They fill the silence with stories. And the stories grew. If strange planes existed, perhaps strange beings existed too. If technology was hidden, perhaps something else was hidden. Something bigger. Something more shocking. Something inhuman. The idea of aliens did not come from nowhere. It came from the human need to explain the unexplained. And when official explanations are forbidden, unofficial ones take their place. The government never said, "This is a spy plane." They said, "There is nothing there." And people knew that was not true. So they asked, if it's not nothing, what is it? By the 1980s, Area 51 had become a cultural symbol, a joke, a rumor, a legend. Late-night shows talked about it. Movies used it. Cartoons referenced it. It became entertainment. And entertainment made it safe. Once something becomes funny, it becomes harmless. Once something becomes absurd, it becomes ignorable. And behind that laughter, real programs continued. Stealth bombers, advanced sensors, electronic warfare, surveillance systems that would define modern conflict, all tested behind a wall of jokes about aliens. This was not accidental. It was convenient. The myth protected the truth better than any fence ever could. If you asked about Area 51 seriously, you sounded foolish. If you believed in aliens, you were dismissed. If you questioned secrecy, you were lumped together with conspiracy theorists. And real questions disappeared into the noise. By the 1990s, some documents were finally released. The government admitted that Area 51 existed. It admitted that spy planes were tested there. It admitted that secrecy had been extreme. But by then, it didn't matter. The myth was stronger than the truth. People did not want boring explanations about aircraft. They wanted extraordinary explanations about visitors from space. Reality could not compete with imagination. And so the base remained both known and unknown at the same time. Everyone knew its name. Almost no one knew its purpose. And that was the perfect balance. Area 51 no longer needed to be invisible. It only needed to be unbelievable. In the 1990s, something changed. Not the secrecy, not the fences, not the guards, but the world around Area 51. The Cold War ended. The Soviet Union collapsed. The enemy that justified absolute secrecy disappeared. And suddenly, people began asking questions again, not about aliens, but about legality, about accountability, about what had really happened in the desert. Former workers started speaking out, not about flying saucers, but about toxic chemicals, about environmental damage, about unsafe working conditions, about illnesses, about deaths. A group of employees sued the U.S. government, claiming that they had been exposed to dangerous substances during secret projects and were denied medical care because their work was classified. They did not know what they were exposed to. They were not allowed to know. And that ignorance followed them home. Some developed cancer. Some developed respiratory illnesses. Some died. And their families wanted answers. The government responded with something strange. It did not deny the illnesses. It did not deny the deaths. It simply said it could not confirm or deny what had happened, because confirming it would reveal secrets. And secrets were more important than people. The case went to court. And the court ruled that national security outweighed the right to explanation. The government won, not because it was proven innocent, but because it was proven powerful. This was the moment when Area 51 stopped being just a military base. It became a moral question. How much secrecy is acceptable? How much harm can be hidden? How many lives can be damaged in silence? These questions had no answers, because the place that created them was designed to avoid answers. In 2013, the CIA officially acknowledged Area 51 for the first time, in a quiet document release. No press conference, no ceremony, just a line in a report. The base existed. It had always existed. But even this confirmation felt empty, because what mattered was not that it existed, but what had happened there. And that remained hidden. Technology continued to advance. Drones replaced pilots. Satellites replaced spy planes. Cyber war replaced airspace. And yet Area 51 remained active, not because it was needed, but because it was useful. It was a symbol of secrecy, a warning, a place where rules were suspended, where normal law did not apply, where oversight ended, where the state could operate without witnesses. And that was not a Cold War relic. That was a modern reality. Every powerful system creates places like this. Not always in deserts, not always with fences, sometimes in servers, sometimes in offices, sometimes in laws no one reads. Area 51 was not unique. It was simply visible. A physical representation of invisible power. A reminder that behind every democracy, there is a space where democracy does not reach. And that space is protected by silence. The myth of aliens was never the danger. The danger was the idea that secrecy is always justified, that if something is hidden, it must be necessary, that if something is classified, it must be right, that if something cannot be questioned, it should not be. Area 51 taught us that secrecy does not just hide information. It hides responsibility. It hides mistakes. It hides harm, it hides victims, and it hides accountability. And once that hiding becomes normal, it becomes permanent. The base in the desert was not the problem. It was a symptom of a system that values control over transparency, security over truth, power over people. Area 51 is not important because of what happened there. It is important because of what it represents, the place where the state can act without being seen. And once a place like that exists, it never truly disappears. Today, Area 51 still exists. The fences are still there. The guards are still there. The restricted airspace is still there. But the world has changed. The secrets are no longer only hidden in deserts. They are hidden in code, in data centers, in algorithms, in laws written in language no one understands. Area 51 was a physical place for secrecy. Now secrecy is everywhere. We live inside systems we cannot see. Decisions are made far from public view. Technology evolves faster than law, and power moves faster than accountability. The desert base taught the world something important, not about aliens, but about how easily people accept not knowing, how quickly secrecy becomes normal, how fast silence becomes invisible. Area 51 is no longer a location. It is a concept, a place where questions stop, a place where authority is not challenged, a place where truth is postponed, and postponed long enough, truth disappears. The story of Area 51 is not about what was hidden. It is about why it was hidden, and who decided it should be. It is a reminder that every system that asks for trust without transparency is asking for something dangerous, that every time we are told, you are not allowed to know, something important is already lost. Area 51 was built to protect the nation, but in protecting the nation, it also protected itself from the nation. And that difference matters, because a government that cannot be questioned stops being accountable, and a power that cannot be questioned stops being legitimate. The fences in the desert are easy to see. The fences around information are not, but they are just as real and just as powerful. Area 51 will eventually disappear, not because it is revealed, but because it becomes unnecessary, not because secrets end, but because secrecy becomes normal. And when secrecy becomes normal, freedom becomes fragile. This is not a story about a base. It is a story about us, about what we accept, about what we ignore, about what we allow to remain hidden. Because every Area 51 begins with the same thing: silence. And silence is not empty. It is full of decisions made without us,